right, guys. So it appears that Donald Trump is in some pretty big trouble here. Hopefully, this actually ends up resulting in something. It doesn't end up being one of those, oh, the walls are closing in on Trump. But it does, there's definitely a ton of pressure, and he's actually being come at by multiple directions, and people are also starting to flip. His inside team is starting to flip on him and starting to be witnesses again for his prosecution. So he really is starting to get really screwed. He's really starting to get effed right now. But he's also, like I said, he's getting hit from two sides. There's been this House Select Committee that's been going on the January 6th situation, which I'm really, really glad the committee happened because they found so much information. Even if it results in no charges, it gave the American populace so much information about how criminal and how deep this went, where they were trying to get fake electors and they were clearly knew about the violence going on and they believed that it was incitement. And you have now people who are inside the Trump administration at the time coming out and being witnesses and saying, yeah, he knew the violence that was coming, but he didn't do anything. And we have the outtakes of him not wanting to attack the rioters too hard. You guys hopefully saw those outtakes. So I'm really, really happy, even if it does. And even if you were to say it was just a political thing, it would just be a balancing effect for Benghazi situation. Anyways, Benghazi would have been the political one. But these are not the same thing. They're two completely different things. Benghazi was a complete bullshit thing that resulted in no charges and was just political bullshit. This is actually real. The biggest crime you could possibly commit, which is trying to literally overthrow U.S. democracy. And we're starting to get some legit indictments going on here. But not only that, there's a separate one going on, and I believe is it Fulton County? It's somewhere in Georgia. But remember what the whole Georgia calls, where he was calling, I think it was Raffensperger, where he's calling him the Secretary of State to, find the votes needed to win, right? So, he's actually getting screwed from two different directions. Now, the House Select Committee doesn't actually have powers to indict or to charge someone, but what they do have the ability to do is just to create evidence, and then I don't know if they can recommend to the Department of Justice like, hey, you should charge Trump based on this evidence. I don't know if they do even that. They have no legal power except for one. I was actually surprised by this because I remember when, Steve Bannon got, he got convicted on charges of, contempt of Congress. I was like, wait, what? They have legal powers to do stuff? I thought there's just a committee that just, was looking for evidence. The one thing they have is they can impanel a grand jury, a federal judge, I think can, or they can empower a grand jury to be able to indict specifically on subpoena charges. So those are the only ones that they have is the subpoena charges in terms of convictions. So what they're doing is they're gathering evidence for the Department of Justice. I don't know if they can, again, like I said, I don't know if they can go to the DOJ and be like, hey, we recommend you charge this based on this. But it says DOJ has multiple possible paths to Trump indictment. Here's what it could look like. So Merrick Garland is the current, he's the current Attorney General. So he is the head of the Department of Justice. He is, if you remember, he was the centrist that Obama was trying to replace Scalia with. Back in 2016, that was his vote that, he was trying to get through. He thought, if I get a moderate through, they'll be down, the Republicans will be down with it or help me in the election or blah, blah. Instead, he could have really tried to galvanize the Democrats by being like, appointing somebody who was like a really good liberal or a lefty or whatever, but he didn't do that because, his presidencies were not all that great. But there was a lot of questions about this. A lot of people were actually getting angry at Merrick Garland because they were like, dude, why are you not charging Trump with these crimes? What are you doing? And so what we're seeing now is he actually was, I guess, trying to sidestep it. It had at least seemed, because he was trying to make the DOJ seem less political because it had become so politicized under the Trump administration. But it appears that now it's starting to get big. And so we got news yesterday that the Department of Justice is officially investigating former President Donald Trump on the grounds of the January 6th, overthrow coup. So it says the Department of Justice's apparent new focus on Donald Trump and his January 6th investigation presents prosecutors with multiple possible paths to an indictment, as sketched out by the House Select Committee's own investigation into the former president's White House and outside allies. In recent days, federal prosecutors have reportedly obtained phone records from former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, secured cooperation from the committee's star witness Cassidy Hutchinson, and questioned two of former Vice President Mike Pence's top aides before a grand jury. The department's new line of inquiry will give it an opportunity to corroborate the Select Committee's evidence and fill in the remaining gaps in the lawmakers' case against Trump. Jeff Robbins, a former federal prosecutor and congressional investigative counsel, said he believes the committee's hearings have likely prompted the renewed DOJ efforts by presenting a persuasive public case against Trump. Quote, it's probably not coincidental that there seems to be an uptick in DOJ activity either aimed at the former president or encompassing the former president's conduct after these hearings, Robbins said. I don't think the circumstances are the same as they were several months ago because the entire country has seen so much evidence of criminal intent. And so, yeah, they've presented so much evidence, text messages, all of these different things, witnesses coming together, coming out and talking about it, former Trump administration people who are really fucking close to him coming out and saying, yeah, he knew about this, he knew this, blah, 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 blah. They're starting to, get information that they can use. There's just so much evidence, dude. Says Washington Post reported new details about Justice Department's focus on Tuesday. According to the report, prosecutors have asked grand jury witnesses for information about their conversations with Trump and the former president's conduct around January 6th attack. Focus has been on Trump's effort to pressure Pence into obstructing Congress's certification of the Electoral College results and a scheme to present a slate of fake electors who would have cast their votes for the former president to override results in key states President Biden won. Those two areas have also been the subject of select committee hearings over the summer, in which lawmakers alleged that Trump's legal advisors knew the schemes were illegal yet pushed ahead with them anyways. Members of the select committee have said their evidence supports charging Trump with obstruction of an official proceeding. A felony charge that carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison has been used against hundreds of rioters in the aftermath of the attack. So this appears to be the most likely one that they're going to try to get him on, as obstruction of an official proceeding. It carries a maximum sentence of 20 years, but if you guys know charges, you never get anywhere close to the maximum sentence of 20 years. I highly doubt he would get anywhere close to that. So according to the Post, DOJ is pursuing lines of inquiry that could lead to them weighing such charges against Trump, as well as those involving conspiracy to defraud the U.S. Even seditious conspiracy charges, which have been brought against members of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, are reportedly under consideration, though experts warn the DOJ may ultimately be hesitant to bring such a weighty case. That's not going to happen. You're not going to see the seditious conspiracy charges levied. Those are just way too serious. There's no way, and it's way too hard to do. You also don't want to throw too much shit, I think, at the wall. I think it'd probably lower your chances of getting the right one to stick if you could focus on just one. Says, in some observers say the select committee has supplied ample evidence that would overcome the significant legal hurdles any potential prosecution would have to overcome. One of the hearings' main achievements, Robbins said, was providing a mountain of evidence that could be used to show Trump acted with corrupt intent to overturn the election, a major threshold for prosecutors in any potential case, that he conspired to obstruct or defraud government proceedings. He said the DOJ's ability to secure cooperation by flipping potential witnesses, a tool that the Select Committee lacks, would likely be the next course of action for prosecutors. There are going to be people who are privy to these discussions with the former president who have a much more powerful incentive to cooperate with the DOJ than they did to testify before the committee. I assume that process is underway. Danya Perry, former federal prosecutor, said the committee has already provided much of the evidence that would be needed to back charges for obstructing a proceeding. We've seen already that every single credible advisor, legal, political, familial, and otherwise, to the former president was telling him that he had lost the election. There was no proof of fraud. Whether he willfully ignored that or simply didn't care, he objectively would have understood those facts, and I think there's some direct evidence that he did. This one says, the fake elector scheme might be one. So, there's the whole fake elector situation. Then there's just the general attempt at, obstructing the official proceeding. And it does seem like they're going to get him on something. And if these guys don't get him on anything, there's the Fulton County DA that's running her charges against him too. So it'll be really interesting to see how this. I just hope something comes out of this. Honestly, even the fact that they're investigating him in the first place is a really massive deal that they're investigating him in the first place. But, just because you indict someone doesn't mean that the charges will actually stick. That you'll result in convictions. Or if the conviction does, it result in probation or something. But if the DOJ, the Department of Justice, does actually decide to indict a former president of the United States, that'll be like the craziest thing in U.S. history. But I think it's well warranted based on him doing the craziest thing we've ever seen a president do, which is to try to overthrow U.S. democracy and try to fake the presidency, right? Fake the election. So it'll be super interesting to see what ends up happening here. And there's another article I saw here. It says DOJ says it obtained new search warrant for Eastman's phone. Federal prosecutors told a judge on Wednesday they have obtained a new search warrant directed at John Eastman, a lawyer who advised former President Trump on a scheme to overturn the 2020 election results, whose phone was seized by investigators last month. So it seems like, I mean, shit, if his stuff was seized by last month and they're just announcing it now, maybe they've really been just, kind of working their stuff off, in the corner quietly, secretly. Maybe that's what they've been doing. Who knows? I'm not really sure. But it'll be really, really interesting to see what's going on here. And hopefully he does at least get indicted, and hopefully it'll get something to stick. Will the obstruction of an official, proceeding, will that end up sticking? I don't know. If it does, it'll probably get him a little bit of time, maybe a year or less, if so. But honestly, anything would be really awesome. Even indictments would be really great. To see him held to account for what he did would be really, really awesome. So it looks like the walls really are closing in this time, and hopefully this time it's not a fake walls are closing in.